21 for a while, we huddled in the middle of the tube, taking turns shading each other's faces from the sun. I don't know how you can be so cold in blazing bright sunshine, but we were still freezing. I shivered like a wet cat, but Alex had stopped altogether. Not good. We clung to the life vest like it was a security blanket. Occasionally, I'd lift up my head to study the forest surrounding the river, hoping that I'd see a cabin, or a hiker, or a sign. Maybe even the pickup point for a tubing trip. Instead, all I saw were tall grasses and endless birches, pines, and maples, dotted with the occasional sandstone cliff. Alex had fallen asleep somehow, with her face mashed against the inner curve of the tube. At least, I think she was sleeping. Her eyes were shut, and when I accidentally kicked her shin, she didn't flinch or yelp or anything. "Alex?" I pressed my fingertips to her wrist. Her pulse was present but really weak, although I wasn't sure that I was checking it correctly. Alex didn't budge even when I tried to recheck it by pressing on her neck artery. When someone has a concussion, you have to keep them awake. I didn't know if Alex had one, but she had a head injury, and I wanted to keep her safe regardless. So every few minutes, I'd poke her with my numb toe until she finally grumbled at me. My stomach churned. The choppy river wasn't helping with that either. Every few seconds, the tube would spin in a new direction. I leaned over the side and heaved, but for better or worse, nothing came up. The tube bounced and rocked in the current. Water sloshed into the bottom, keeping our lower halves soaked and cold. I couldn't feel my toes anymore, even when I used them to rouse Alex, so I shifted to rest my feet on the edge of the tube. Big horseflies landed on my outstretched legs, but I didn't have the energy to swat or kick them away. I just let them bite me, like some kind of human all-you-can-eat buffet. I doubted there was any unbitten skin for them to feast on, anyway. Considering all the mosquito bites and the ticks, it was a miracle I had any blood left. As we floated and the afternoon dragged on, I felt sicker and sicker. My stomach really hurt, like when I had the stomach flu. 2 more times I thought I was going to throw up, but the nausea taunted me just below that level. Occasionally, the bottom of the tube would brush past a large rock or fallen log in the river, which would poke us. I crossed my fingers that the tube wouldn't get another tear. A hole we couldn't patch would be the end of us. I sank back against the side, where the plastic felt warm, or at least warmer than the river water. Alex's sunken eyes were still closed, her breathing regular but shallow. I nudged her again to keep her on the right side of the sleep-wake divide. There was a strange noise from downstream, a roar, but not like a bear's. The roar of fast-moving water. Our rapids. A sign we actually might be back on the Wolf River. Its lower part has lots of spots where people do whitewater rafting when the water level is high. Even the part we'd been on for our lazy river tubing experience had 1 or 2 sets of baby falls. I pulled myself up to look. Sure enough, only a few feet ahead, the water churned. We were headed straight for the froth. "Alex, hang on." I shook her shoulder. Finally, she blinked up at me, her eyes struggling to focus. "Rapids," I said, just as we hit them. Water sloshed into the tube from all sides. I clutched Alex, and her hands seized my arms. I groped at the bottom of the tube for the life vest, in case we got knocked out or capsized and needed it to save us. Jagged rocks surrounded the tube, and I wished more than anything for a helmet, imagining what would happen if we whacked our heads, then went underwater. The tube jolted again, and I screamed, although the roar of the water drowned me out. Alex whimpered next to me. It felt like being inside of a washing machine, as the tube twisted and spun and we dropped along with the river. If there had been anything in my stomach, I definitely would have thrown it up. We bounced again, both screaming. I squeezed my eyes shut. And then, suddenly, miraculously, the tube was floating lazily once again. Both of us still safely inside, although the middle was so full of water that we were submerged up to our belly buttons. We sputtered and gasped, crying with pain as the frigid water swirled around us. My fingers, mottled with cold, stayed curled around the life vest, refusing to let go. I spun to check the sticker. Still stuck on, but at least a third of it was underwater. The adhesive on one corner was beginning to peel off. We didn't have much time left before the sticker would stop sticking, and nail polish reinforcement would be useless while everything was wet. Alex and I huddled together. She kept closing her eyes like she wanted to sleep. And she still wasn't shivering, despite how cold it was now that we were drenched. I longed to have something to wrap around our shoulders. I wished we'd kept the towels with us, or at least my sweatshirt. But even if we had, that stuff would all be soaking wet and would probably only keep us that way. Alex groaned and rubbed at her temple, sporting a budding rainbow bruise. How long could we keep going? At what point should we abandon the tube, try to get out of the water again? Our tube wouldn't survive another set of rapids, and after all the rain, the water level was high, there would be more ahead. But I didn't know if we would survive on land either. We had no supplies. We were in swimsuits, and I was barefoot. Like this, we wouldn't make it through another night. We'd die of exposure. I lay back against the tube, letting tears roll down my cheeks. Next to me, Alex was limp. Her eyes were still closed, her expression pained. I was so tired, so hungry, so thirsty, so cold. My thoughts became hazy. I didn't have a plan. The river was going to take us, wherever it wanted. I didn't know what to do other than give ourselves over to its flow.